Hey, this is Blake and I'm with my friend Sean. And Sean is one of our signature tyers here at the Gig Harbor Fly Shop, and a lot of the different patterns that we have he's come up with. And we're really excited to have him tying a fly with us today. And so we have Sean Larson's shrimp pattern here that's available on our website. We have a fly tying kit available as well. And so all the materials that he uses to tie this fly are available in the description below, as well as the kit that you can get on our website. So check this out. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit that button so you get all the updates of all the other videos we have coming out, and we'll turn it over to Sean.
So we're gonna tie the Larson's shrimp that's available at the Gig Harbor Fly Shop. This is what it looks like, the finished product. So the first material I put on here is just some, I'm using Vivis 6/0 in like a pink. Just get a good thread base going on the hook. And I'll wrap it till about where the hook point is. That's typically where my starting point is. And then we're gonna put a nice little Senyo's Fusion Dub flame for just a little spawning shrimp hot spot in the back. So just grab just a little pinch of material. We're gonna make a little ball in the back there. So just wrap it around the thread. And then just wrap it in the same spot. Kind of pull a little bit back there. And then so this next material, I just put a little bit of the Hairline Arctic Fox and tan. So when I put this material in, kind of how I gauge how long it needs to be is I'll lay the material on top of the hook shank, and then so the distance from just behind the eye to about that dubbing ball, that's about how much I put back here to get my length. It makes it, if you're tying a bunch of these at the same time, it makes it more uniform, where you can make exactly the same size fly every single time. And then it keeps it from having too much material back there to where you have the material wrapping around the hook and fouling, which isn't really good when you're fishing, because you want your fly to fish instead of not fish because your material is all fouled up in the back. So that's kind of, to get it in the ballpark, that's what I do. And if it fouls a lot when I'm out there on the water, I'll just take my nippers and nip it shorter. So then we're gonna put a little bit of a flash. Today I'm using the Hairline Crystal Flash and the Root Beer. And usually I just take a couple out of the bundle there, and then I'll fold them over, cut them right down the middle, and then that's the amount I'll use. And how I put them in there is I'll wrap them around the thread like that, so then there's no way they'll pull out. I'll wrap them down the shank, and then you can leave them long and cut them later. If they're too long, you can cut them. But I'll just leave them that long for right now. Next, we're gonna put some shrimp eyes on here. These are the EP Flies black shrimp eyes. These are, I think, the large size. I like the big shrimp eyes so that they stand out. How I gauge how much of the eye to put on is I take the eye and I hold it to the hook point, and where the mono meets the shank, I'll put my finger right there, and that's how much I use to stick behind the bend of the hook there. So then I wrap it, I just kind of wrap it all the way just behind the eye. Don't go right next to the eye, leave a little bit of a gap so the head of the fly isn't too big, and then I'll cut that, flip it to the other side, and I do the same thing. And I try, if possible, to keep them right down the side of the fly on the hook shank for each eye. That way it has like the same sort of weight to the fly on each side. Next, we're gonna use just some little bit of mono. This is gonna come into play later on in the fly, but right now we're just gonna tie it in there and leave it out of the way. So I'll just tie a little bit on the shank here, and then I take it and just hold it behind the vise here so it's out of the way. I'll double it over so it doesn't pull out, wrap it a little bit, cut the tag, and then I'll tie it all the way back to where the rest of the material is back there. Next, I'm gonna use the Hairline Scub Dub Tan. This is gonna be the bulk of the body of the fly. And I'm just gonna take some out and I'm gonna wrap it around the thread and then just wrap it down the body and just keep adding as I go. If you do it that way, you can kind of gauge how thick or sparse you want the body of the fly to be. I like to try and make a nice like cone, so thicker in the back, tapering down smaller in the front. So as I get closer to the eye of the fly, I'll use less and less material, or I'll wrap it tighter and tighter. Kind of put a couple wraps over it. So the next material we're going to use is this is the Pro Sport Fisher Gammarus. This is a size medium in the color brown, and they come in these packs like this, and then it feels like a vinyl sticker. So it's clear when you put it on, like when you're just holding it, it's clear, it's like flexible, it flexes. So it has this nice little tag in, and I flip it upside down, and then I'll tie a few thread wraps on the tag just to hold it in place, and then I flip it upside down, and then I'll do a couple thread wraps to hold it in place. And then here's where that mono we left in the back comes into play. So I'll take the mono and I'll just start wrapping down the fly. I'll start close to the back, and then I'll get tighter. I'll start wider and I'll get tighter as I get closer to the eye of the fly. And on the back, there's these, you can see them, there's the segments. And I try and put my mono wraps close to those segments if possible. And I'm not like trying, if you pull really tight, it's gonna make a bump right there. I'm just getting it to where it doesn't come off the hook. So you can just loosely go over it to where it's not gonna fall off or anything, and then it kind of keeps it in place right on the top of the back. And then make its way to the front of the hook, and then I'll wrap behind it a couple times, and I'll do a couple thread wraps, and then I'll pull it back, and I'll do a couple thread wraps on the front, secure that to where it's not going to come out, and then I'll cut it. And then now we're going to make up the head of the fly. I'll just build a nice little head here, and then I'll just use my whip finisher, give it a few whip finishes. And then this fly is done right now. If you want it to be done, you can take the whip finisher, like the point, and you can turn this fly around and you can pick out the material however you want it to look. Just work your way around and pick a little bit out from where the mono wrapped it tighter. I like to pick more out in the back than I do in the front to kind of keep that nice shrimp sort of profile. I'll pull it back, kind of look at it, rotate the fly around. And you can leave the fly just like that and it's done. Or you can take the UV clear fly finish thin from Loon and put that on top of the Gammarus back, and just put a nice little coating on the back of it, working your way all the way around it. hit it with the UV light and cure it. And then it just adds a lot of depth to this shrimp back. It makes it come alive a little bit more. I'll show you what it looks like. The top one has the resin and the bottom one doesn't. You can see how it just gives it a little bit more depth, makes it look a little bit more real. Either or works just fine, but sometimes I like to make ones that look a little bit more real than not. And then if you didn't get enough on the first go around, you can always add a little bit more to make it look how you want it to. Less is more. I start with less and then I build it up more, because then you can always add to it. It's hard to take away once you put it on there. And that's how you tie the Larson shrimp.